today. G and Jay, who's not with us today, obviously, had an interesting conversation off the air about what the league might do next. We're going to get to that in a few minutes. Aditi's going to be with us today. Leroy Hord's going to be with us today. So a lot to get to. But obviously, I haven't been here the last couple of days. And I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes and kind of talking about what has happened here since the result came out about Deshaun Watson. I have read the entire report from Sue Robinson, as I'm sure many of you have at this point. And I'm really fascinated by the whole thing. Number one, in life, we have all become entrenched in our camps, right? There's nothing more noticeable than in politics. And we've always been entrenched in our camps to some degree, but now it's more extreme than ever. We are unwilling, all of us, or most of us, shouldn't say all of us, to listen to anybody's opinion when they don't agree with us. We get in our silos, and we only want to hear from people that believe exactly the way we do. And to some degree, this has happened also with this situation. People have decided they're in the Watson camp or they're in the anti-Watson camp. And neither side will listen to the other, even when some people are being reasonable, guys. And the reason I bring this up is because if you just saw that she suspended him for 6 games without pay, as we're seeing there, can't use the team masseuses, must stay out of trouble, you would say, without reading what she found in this case, that he was, what he did wasn't that bad. And that's why it was only a 6-game suspension and not this long suspension that the league wanted. But if you actually read it, I don't see, and listen, I've been talking about this for months. I have said consistently that Deshaun Watson should be suspended 8 games or less. I've said consistently, there's some holes in this story from some of the people and blah, blah, blah. I have been, if you will, if we had to define it, in the Deshaun Watson camp. And I'm still, even after reading everything I read, guys, fine with the 6-game suspension. Here's my problem. The people that have defended Deshaun Watson, and again, I'm one of them, if you're going to come out and say, well, listen, we believe, we all, a lot of us said, whatever Sue Robinson decides, we're okay with that. Haven't a lot of us said that, right?
Did.
So, G, you've said it, I've said it. So Sue Robinson came out and said 6 games. And so all of us that wanted Watson to have a short suspension or no suspension were like, yes, 6 games, that's great. But if you read what she wrote, it's very clear that Deshaun Watson is not completely innocent. And I don't think anybody should be going on TV, I don't think anybody should be on Twitter arguing that Deshaun Watson is a victim, that he's done absolutely nothing wrong, and this is some grand scheme to get him. At this point, based on what I read in her brief, and I read every word of it, that is impossible for anybody to believe. And I think we have to come to a point where we have to be realistic and say, is Deshaun Watson an innocent bystander here? No, of course he's not. Did he cross the line and do things that were inappropriate? Yes, he did. But is it fair to say, and so many people are so scared to have this conversation, that what he did, and we don't know with 100% certainty, but with, as she said, with reasonable information, I can't remember the exact words she used now. I can't remember the exact words. I wish I remembered it now. That he didn't beat anybody up and he didn't force anybody, but he did cross the line. His behavior was inappropriate. Right. There's no doubt about it. He was hiring massage therapists that weren't qualified. He was looking for sex, which I don't have a problem with if the girl's okay with it. But clearly there were some girls that were not okay with it. And it appears that he stopped when that happened. But he had already crossed the line. But when we start lumping what he did crossing the line, which was inappropriate but not criminal, to it's all in the same boat with rape and beating up a woman and all that stuff, that's where the other side, the anti-Deshaun Watson side, is being unfair. We can't lump everything together. There are levels to this. Does Deshaun Watson deserve to be punished? Yes. After reading this brief, do I think you could argue he should have been suspended even longer than 6? I think you can. She pointed to the precedent. I'm fine with the 6, and I'm also fine with separating what I think of the person and what I think of the player. If I can't root for the Browns because of Deshaun Watson, then I can't go to any stores and buy anything. I can't root for any sports teams. I can't do anything because there's bad guys and bad people in every spot. Deshaun Watson is not innocent. But I do believe in the end the punishment is fair. If it was harsher, a little harsher after reading this, guys, I would have been okay with it. But we can't argue that Deshaun Watson, I think, it's very clear after reading this, is completely innocent. But before I end my monologue, and I apologize for rambling, I do want to say one very important thing here. When she talks about he violated 3 things, sexual assault, conduct that possesses a genuine danger to the safety and well-being of another person, and conduct that undermines or puts at risk the integrity of the NFL. I think it is very important to note, and I think the anti-Watson people are not noting this, and I think it's important. These are not laws of the state. These are based on the definition that the NFL has come up with. And that's a big, big difference. Because when you hear possesses a genuine danger to the safety and well-being of another person, I don't really believe that he was a danger personally to any of these women. But based on how the NFL defined it, I could understand why she said yes in that case. I think that's something important to note. So I don't know. And we're going to get to what G and J were talking about. I want to, but I just wanted any of you guys to have a chance to respond to what you think I said. I don't know.
So G, you want to jump in? Then I'm gonna come in on this thing.
I like how what you brought to the table right there, because there's a lot of people who don't believe that Deshaun Watson did anything, and sometimes when you point out inconsistencies and you point out the facts and you talk about specifically why she came to a 6-game conclusion, people are upset because that means you're saying, oh, Deshaun Watson didn't do anything. Deshaun Watson didn't. No. We've been clear and specifically crystal clear on the fact that Deshaun Watson he's not an innocent bystander in all of this. Most of the people said, hey, if they wanted to give him 8 games, so be it, right? At the end of the day, you did something incorrect. I've been the first person to say it, even if it was completely consensual. You do not have any business having sexual intercourse with anybody in the place of business or in public. I've been crystal clear about that. One of the things that for me, I look at this point now is if you have a process that you put in play and everybody on that panel, including the people we have consistency every single day said, listen, he put himself in a situation, whatever she comes up with, we will abide by and keep it pushing. My problem is this. There's a angry mob type of feeling about everything in this country at this point. You people feel that if you could get enough people to be on your side to win an argument and to win a thought process, then what we'll do is we'll use public pressure to get the outcome that we want. And you can tell it's throughout everything we do, our politics, our system, our laws, all of that. My problem is this. If you have a system that you said that you are going to abide by, at the end of the day, justice is blind. And if you agree to a process and you say this is what it is, stop having backdoor routes where you could go back to the place where you had to change the policy to start with.
Yeah.
Don't have it where, hey, Rodger Goodell gets the last look at things. Do you know how crazy that sounds? I'm going to appeal it to the person who makes these decisions. And now we have people saying it's okay that even if we have this sham decision by a judge that is more qualified and has heard all of the facts and has heard all of the details, and you're going to disregard that judge, that shows a blatant arrogance in this country. There are people who believe they have a privilege over facts, a privilege over experience, and because you feel aggrieved or you're on a supposed imaginary side, you know more than judges and grand juries, and that's the point where I stand at.
Yeah, Brad, to G's point, right, Sue Robinson said in this, whatever it's called, response or brief, I don't know what you call it, what she put out, the exact word, but she said basically that the league had made decisions in the past without really any guidelines. It was done based on public pressure and emotion. And I do think G's right. I don't think they should change the suspension personally. But she really chided the NFL for wanting the stronger suspension, but really having no tent poles in place to do that.
Well, so I'm glad, I'm sitting in the seat here. I'm usually in the other seat, so I'm looking at the wrong camera here, right? So let me say this. Bull, to this point, I listen to everybody, right? And here, I'm a person that's involved in the system. I know how the system is supposed to work. So part of Sue Robinson's pitch was there was a this is basic labor law, past practice established by the NFL.
Right.
This is what she used to get them on the 6 games. Here's been your prior past practice, and it's the 6 games is right in the realm of what you're doing. Where I have a problem with is or disagree to a point is this. There's a problem. Deshaun Watson is culpable for his own problems he has right now. But for him doing it or being in the situation, he wouldn't even be here, right? But I will say this. When she looks at the evidence and says that by preponderance of evidence, it is clear to me that I can assume that X happened. She gave you what her opinion was. Well, is her opinion different than 2 grand juries down in Texas? Because they're on a criminal case and they could have easily brought a charge on them, right? They could have easily brought a charge. So there were 2 groups in Texas that basically pretty much saw the same thing, and they couldn't get there, right?
But there was a different burden of proof, right?
But it's a higher burden of proof. You think they could have brought a sexual assault charge against Deshaun Watson down in Texas? So something to me, as a person in the system, said, I told you from the beginning there was something wrong. Secondly, I will say this. In this country, in basic labor law, when we're collectively bargaining, the union has a place and a purpose. It is to protect the employee against egregious behavior from the employer, right? So you don't become the vigilante justice that we see in this country so often now. And this really, and I'll tell you what, I'll go back further. This really didn't start till Obama came in office. I mean, we used to disagree, but it's so deep now that
it's gotten much worse.
It is crazy now, right? It is crazy. And so you sit here, and now people are like, the ruling came out from a judge who said, okay, I'm the independent arbiter. And I say, this is what my opinion is, and there should be respect. I mean, you may disagree, and you're in arbitration. Sometimes nobody really wins. It's just a little bit of both sides. Well, now you got the people on the other side saying, I disagree, and I'm going to go back and rewrite the rules. That's not how this is supposed to work. In labor law, if you want to make a change, because we have an agreement, Tyvis, in the collective bargaining agreement between the Players Association and the NFL that X is supposed to happen. And when X doesn't have, these other rules are to be followed. Well, you cannot change the game in the middle because you don't like the way it came out.
Right.
But if the league doesn't appeal, you don't have a problem with what's currently.
Well, I say this. If you ask me whether I think the league should appeal, that's what you're asking me.
Right.
They should let this thing lie.
But you're fine with the 6 games as is.
Well, I'm fine with this.
Yes.
I'm fine with I had an independent arbiter look at it and make a ruling.
Right.
Now, do I like it? Because the Deshaun Watson camp don't like it because they think that they should have got no games.
Right.
2 games, 1 game. Not 6 games.
Yeah.
Now, the NFL on the other side says, no, I want a year.
Yeah.
And I want $8 million. Do you? Well, guess what? Nobody happy here. So usually when you get that, it's probably time to walk away.
Tyvis?
The way I look at it is, I was on the fence. You know, I hear both sides of the story. Deshaun Watson, it's a money grab. These women is after money. But after hearing Sue Robinson say what she said and reading the transcript, yes, I admit that he did something for sure. He's guilty of something. And the problem that I have with it is that how you hire somebody, how do you hire somebody that has no biases at all? She's not one side or the other. She's strictly Switzerland down the middle, and she calling it like she see it. And she made a ruling. And like Brad said, nobody won. The Deshaun Watson didn't win. The NFL didn't win. So technically, she did the right thing. And everybody's mad about Deshaun Watson. Oh, it's too light. The sentence is too light. And the problem is, y'all shouldn't be mad at that. You should be mad at the NFL for having that precedent games.
That's a good point.
If that wasn't in there, she probably would have called it the way she really wanted to call it.
Right.
But due to the fact that y'all, the NFL, let all these people get away with stuff that they did and only gave them 6 games, she can't. She can't look at it and say, "I'm gonna go more." Like I gotta do.
Yeah.
I gotta go off of what they giving me, and it's 6 games. So everybody that has a problem with the 6 games, you need to take that up with the NFL because that's who you truly are mad at.
That's true.
Well, they've got lawyers. They established a past practice here.
That's
this
right.
This has been their game.
And they're
right?
trying to go away from that.
Now you're trying to say, no,
Yeah.
I don't like my game. Even
Right.
though I use it on this person, this person, this person. And then here, I'll take it even further, Bull. The nonsense about the Miami Dolphins owner yesterday.
Well, yeah.
I mean, he basically got a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Come on.
Well,
Yeah. Well, the owner, I mean, look, what
Gee,
they
a
did.
slap.
What are you going to do? The problem is, unless you kick the owner out,
The
what can
problem
you do?
is the nuts are running the asylum.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
the problem.
The owners get away with everything. That it's completely unfair. We know that.
Do you think that punishment is enough to make him not, or anybody in the future ever do that, not do that again?
Are you
No,
kidding me?
billionaire. But
And
there's no.
and that's the problem.
Unless
Like,
you
gotta
take
make-
away all his money, he will always. Billionaires always will
you
go
gotta
back to
do
that
something
process.
to deter the action.
Yeah.
You want somebody to stop doing it, and you don't want it to ever
Right.
happen again. You have to lay down the hammer,
Yeah.
and it changes a
Well,
lot.
we will get to that, but just one last thing before we go to what the NFL might do here, guys. I think a lot of people were focused on the number of accusations against Deshaun Watson and said because of the number, the penalty should be harsher than the other guys. What I would argue, and what Sue Robinson has argued is, this is not about the number, because she was only looking at 4 cases, not at 24 or
Yes.
36 or whatever the hell number you want to throw out there. She was looking at 4, and she found those 4 all to be credible. It's not like she didn't. She found, based on the evidence that was collected, those 4 victims, alleged victims, to be credible. But she was focused on the fact that the other penalties that that the NFL was using as a comparison were based on violent behavior. I would argue, and I know a lot of people will get mad at me with this, that what Kareem Hunt did, if I had to, it's weird to say what's worse. Deshaun Watson had bad behavior here, but I would argue personally that what Kareem Hunt did when he kicked that woman and basically was beating up that woman is worse than what as far as I know, what Deshaun Watson has done. I would argue, even though it's 1 versus a certain number, that what Kareem Hunt did is worse. And so I think there is a difference when one person beats somebody up, in that case of Kareem Hunt, versus what Deshaun Watson did here. I think I've said it, you just said it. What he did was wrong, but there are different levels to these things here.
And Bull, I'm gonna just say this, and I'm kind of, to me, I'm a little over the talk, right? You guys and the NFL said they wanted the process. They got the process.
Yeah.
They got the verdict. At this point in time, I'm tired of talking about what you're going to do, and I'm not going to lose no sleep over you possibly hanging this over my head. The reality of the situation is this. The NFL Players Association should have this mind state. I'm not begging and I'm not pleading with you. Make your decision. We will make our decision. We've already told you we're going to sue you, and we will do that. So the ball is in your court. And as far as what comes out after that, I will just say this really quickly. The NFL enjoys a certain amount of what we should say exclusion in this country. They have antitrust laws. They have tax exemptions. They can do a whole lot of things that a lot of other corporations in this country can't do. I'm just saying this. If a class action lawsuit is brought against the NFL as far as their hiring practices of minority coaches, as far as their collusion of Colin Kaepernick, in terms of the improper, the exaggerated the suspension of Deshaun Watson, and when you're talking about how they systematically go about delivering benefits in terms of racial profiling and doing certain things with CTE, you're going to have some young and energetic House of Representative or Senate member that will run off that. If you think that they won't run on getting rid of the antitrust exemptions based on the public and saying you're getting tax dollars, you're getting stadiums built by communities, we need to really check and see if you're treating your employees and minorities in a correct thing. And at the end of the day, I don't want my emails out there. So the owners shouldn't want their emails out there, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So at this point, do what you're going to do so we can keep it moving.
And they're building those stadiums off the backs of poor people in these communities with tax money, sin tax money quite often, as we do here in Cleveland. And you're right. And because of all those things, I don't think the league will appeal. I don't think they should appeal. I know you and Jay after the show, though, G, were talking about maybe there's kind of a middle ground where maybe the NFL does ask for a fine in addition, but no additional games.
Me and Jay talked about this, and we were talking after the show, and we were talking about it. And it just popped up that, some people, as you read this discussion and you watch what Sue Robinson did, I think she did an eloquent job of pointing out, yes, Deshaun Watson, she felt did something, but the policy did not give her enough teeth, and they hadn't consistently delivered the consequences of those actions across players and owners and anybody that was under the collective bargaining agreement and the conduct policy. So we thought like she gave that room to say, now there's an opportunity for the NFL to actually go out and say, here, hey, reach out to Deshaun Watson's camp, say, look, hey, the 6 games, we can't do nothing about the 6 games. But what we want to do here, let's see if this works. What if we go back and take a look at a fine? Can we negotiate a fine? Can we negotiate how much, you'll give us in terms of a fine so that the league looks like they got a little bit more from Deshaun Watson, and you still get to play. We look like we came out and we didn't go out like a sheep, and you give us a sacrificial lamb of a couple $1 million, and then we can come out and say we've agreed to this settlement and keep it moving. If that's something that they're thinking about doing and possibly doing, I would look at it if it's Deshaun Watson, because a lot of people are bringing up the fact that every time you talk about him, it's the salary. Oh, they bamboozled the league. They set up this contract where you only lose $1 million or do you only make $1 million? They've been talking about that since Jump Street. So the NFL, if that's going to give them some more public PR, which Sue Robinson already told them, hey, please stop doing that. You shouldn't negotiate in public. But if they want a little more of that, Deshaun Watson's camp could possibly look at it and say, okay, we'll look at a fine. We're not touching this suspension, though.
Gee, that's what, I hear you, what you and Jay are talking about, but I disagree with that, because first of all, that's like, again, that's like negotiating with the criminal, right? The criminal you say the criminal committed a crime. So now you're going to say, okay, to make everybody feel better, we're going to cut a deal with you. I'm not cutting a deal with you, right? Here's the rules. If you want to change, define your rules in the collective bargaining agreement. Mm-hmm. Say, okay, here are the stipulations for these penalties. Their stuff was so broad that she could only extract a little bit out of it, right? And the problems that the NFL have is because the way they laid it down so broad so that they would have as much jurisdiction as possible, right? I'm not saying that Deshaun Watson is innocent of anything, right? Mm-hmm. Because if what is being alleged is true, there's a problem. I take my tempo from the people at the gym. So I go to the gym every night. Women, guys, I get the whole story. But I'll say this. This is consensus in the gym last night. If he got a problem, it's going to materialize again.
That's true.
It's going to materialize again.
That's true. It's
going to materialize again.
Listen, the Browns
might be delayed, but it's going to materialize again.
That's true. It will. The Browns have to do. It's silly that I have to say this, but the Browns have to do their best to keep him out of those situations. Ultimately,
if you were what Sue Robinson has alleged in her report, right, in her conclusion, right, then he has an issue.
Oh yeah,
he has an issue, and I don't think you can resolve that issue on your own. So you can sit here and say
he needs therapy.
I think
if you sit up here and tell me, Tyvis, that I'm gonna resolve the issue by saying you can't go to masseuse.
Right. No, that's
ridiculous.
That's
ridiculous.
But I do believe that this was a young thing, and it comes with maturity. I think like when you're young, rich, and you're that guy, like I think that's you had a fetish. You did it. You probably did it one time, and it happened, and you just took advantage of that fetish that you had. So I think him losing games, losing some money, having to pay all these settlements. I think that he, in his mind, that shit.
Yeah, that's your logic. I get it.
Yeah, that's my logic. It's my logic.
I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm gonna give you a quick story here. So when I was overseas, I played with a guy, and Bull, you know who this guy is. One of the best players in NBA history. His name was Michael Ray Richardson. Sugar. That's what they call him. New York Knicks. One of the baddest guards ever played in the NBA. Sugar got put out the NBA because he was a cocaine addict. He smoked it up, right? And so when I played, I idolized this guy, right? They banned him from the NBA. And so when I played with him, he had cleaned himself up. We were living in France, south of France. He was doing well. And one night we were out dinner. I'm just having a discussion with him. I asked Sugar, what happened? He said, man, when I got to New York, I didn't smoke or drink. I said, well, what happened? He said, I went to a party one night in New York, and somebody turned me on to cocaine, and I just tried it. And then from that night, I was done. I couldn't break myself. I couldn't do it. So the point of that is, you would think the deterrent for Sugar would have been like, now I'm getting this check in the NBA here. I got to start him and freedom.
No.
He couldn't do it.
Not
Tyvus.
necessarily,
he could not do it.
because when you get what he did was he said, you know what, I got money, so I can get even better cocaine. Now that's where that is.
But if you have what Brad's point is, he had an addiction.
Yeah, an addiction.
Right? And we don't know Deshaun Watson personally.
I don't think it's an addiction.
Hey,
I ain't gonna say it ain't though.
Guys, we're trying to be psychologists.
Right.
From we don't know him personally.
We don't know what's happening.
But it is possible he has a sex addiction. I know people can laugh at that. That's
a real thing.
It is a real thing, and he needs to be in therapy at the very least.
Yes.
That's I think everybody should be in therapy. I'll admit I'm in therapy. It's very healthy for me. It's very healthy for everybody. Sometimes when you're young and you play in a macho business, there's a stigma to it. I think that's going away. I hope it will continue to go away. I know it's an issue with athletes. I know it's an issue with military people, police, and stuff like that. There's something people think down on you if you go for therapy. It's important. He clearly, and I think one other thing, I think Jimmy Haslam saying that Deshaun Watson has shown remorse was really poor. Deshaun Watson has shown no remorse publicly. And I think if the NFL decides not to appeal, I think when Deshaun Watson speaks, he should say, I don't know. I don't know that he'll say this. I don't think he will. But if I were him, if I were advising him, I would say, Deshaun, it's clear, even if you didn't mean to, you crossed the line. Maybe you didn't mean to.
The problem is this.
Yeah.
He doesn't even see it as a problem. He's been through the whole thing saying that.
That's not publicly.
Publicly, he has said that, right?
Right.
There's an issue there, right? And the other thing I'm gonna tell you this, and I'll go back to my NBA days, right? There were guys I played with that had some drug addiction problems that cleaned themselves up. They had a vice. It was an addiction.
Yeah.
When they cleared themselves of that vice, it became another vice. And one of the vices was smoking cigarettes, and the other vices was sex. That's what the vices were.
That's right.
So they took from one, resolved themselves of one, and then went to, and these are on prominent teams, right? And so I'm saying, to your point, it's not going. There's going to be systematically, you have to be put in place some things to help him if this is the
100%.
There's
needs
no
help.
can't be out here like that.
But to Bull's point,
yeah.
what I alluded to yesterday was maybe potentially he did acknowledge privately when he settled, behind closed doors. He probably told him, look, I realized that I did do something wrong at that time, and I apologize. But we ain't gonna never talk about it. Here's the money, blah blah blah.
Well, you got the.
If I were him, though,
you got the press conference tomorrow.
Yeah, he settled all the cases but one. If the league can no longer punish him, which after tomorrow they wouldn't be able to punish him any further for this, I would do it. But let's bring Leroy into the mix. Leroy Hort is with us.